All right, for instant reaction on what should happen next in the wake of these whistleblower claims, Senator Ron Johnson, chairman of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, joins us. Senator, great to have you with us.
Well, Shannon.
All right, you heard Catherine's reporting there. She also makes note that now acting DHS Secretary McAleenan was in a position of authority with CBP when these things were not done. So what's the next step? Bring him to the Hill, have him answer questions? I mean, how does this program get moving?
Well, we will conduct oversight. I mean, this is news to me that they weren't doing what they should have been doing. The DNA test that I'm aware of is really checking for fraudulent families. And, if they were supposed to be doing this as an excuse, but it certainly is understandable when McAleenan and CBP and ICE are dealing with this overwhelming problem of primarily people coming in as family units. In May alone, it's about 4,600 people per day coming through the border, which is down to about 3,500. That's a caravan a day that we're having to process, and basically we're dispersing them all across the country. And we're highly concerned that a pretty high percentage of those family units are fraudulent families, where you have an adult. We had under testimony, HSI witness said that a child was sold for $84. When I was down at the border, there was reports of a 3-year-old boy just abandoned in a field, I guess, when his fraudulent parent didn't need him anymore. I mean, that is a dimension of this illegal immigration crisis that's not really being talked about, is the human trafficking element, the abuse to these migrants during the journey, and quite honestly, once they get into America. We have reports of them being put in stash houses. They're being beaten. Those beatings are being videotaped. The videotapes are sent back to Central America demanding ransom. People being forced into involuntary servitude. It's not just the conditions on the border, which nobody likes, but it is the men and women of the Border Patrol that I think are really performing heroically, trying to cope with this unbelievable and overwhelming situation.
So I hear from both sides of the aisle the pointing the finger at these horrible circumstances that these young children are being forced into. Everybody's pointing the finger to different portions of it, whether it's the trafficking, what's happening at the border, in detention, those kinds of things. But where is the appetite to actually do something to resolve it?
Well, I got 3 Democrats to join me in a letter supporting a pilot program I'm calling Operation Safe Return. It is meant to rapidly and more accurately determine those individuals that clearly don't have even a credible fear claim and safely return them home to safe zones within Central America. They exist. And so we need to supply a consequence. We have to start removing people to communicate first to human traffickers. Then on a bipartisan basis, we're not going to allow you to exploit our broken system. And also the people of Central America, don't indebt yourself to these human traffickers. Don't mortgage your home. Don't pay them a year's worth of salary. Don't subject yourself and your children to a very dangerous journey and maybe some pretty bad conditions even in America if you're put into one of these stash houses or forced into involuntary servitude.
One of the critics of this Operation Safe Return writes this: they're being given to the people coming here, being given talking points about their status that including saying they're being persecuted because of their beliefs. This is easy to say and difficult to prove. They don't think it's going to solve the problem long term.
Well, I'm not looking at it as a total solution. I'm looking at it as a very first step to get that data. We don't really have the solid data in terms of how many people really fail even the credible claim fear. My guess is very few. That would be informative right there. We're going to actually have GAO and DHS IG personnel monitoring this and give us the metrics right away so we can adjust the program. But no, this is strictly a pilot program, and the goal, again, would be to show Central Americans that on a bipartisan basis, we're going to say no. I mean, we're going to stop this. We're not going to let you exploit our laws. It's going to take some time. I'm not saying this is a panacea, but it's a first step. We're
almost out of time. I have to ask you very quickly if you want to comment on the budget deal that's coming together. A number of fiscal conservatives saying they're very upset about it, that it doesn't deliver any of the discipline that the White House seemed to say would be part of any deal.
Well, that's my concern as well. I've been here 9 years now. We just see the deja vu over and over again, these deals being done. Doesn't include really Congress. It's just a few, leaders that come up with these deals. They just either increase the debt ceiling or suspend it without putting forward any structural reforms. In my own committee, we passed the Preventing Government Shutdown Act. If you don't pass appropriation bills, you just fund government at last year's levels. You completely end government shutdowns. I'm calling on both chambers to take that bill up, pass it, and we could put a lot of this to rest.
All right, we'll watch as this budget deal comes together and comes to a vote where you have to make a decision. We'll see in the coming weeks. Thank you
for
coming
in.
All right, what are